A British YouTuber known as Young Philly has been found not guilty of raping a woman in Perth, but has been found guilty of assault. Andres Barrientos has not been able to leave Australia without court permission since he was charged with the violent sexual assault of a 20-year-old woman after a concert in Perth. A jury has found the 30-year-old rapper guilty on 2 charges of assault causing bodily harm, but not guilty on 3 charges of penetration without consent. Barrientos is expected to return to court next month for a sentence.
The internet is already completely butchering the Young Philly verdict because depending on which headline you read, you'd think one of these 2 things happened. Either Young Philly was found guilty of everything, or he was completely cleared and can now walk away like none of this ever happened. Neither one is true. Philly was found guilty of 2 assault charges. He was found not guilty of several other charges, and on 3 separate rape charges, the jury couldn't agree on a verdict at all. So no, Young Philly was not convicted of rape, but he also did not walk out of court completely cleared, and considering those unresolved charges could still lead to another trial, this situation is nowhere near over.
About the verdict.
Are you feeling likely you're not going to jail today?
Is there anything you'd like to say to your family?
Really? Are you sorry for assaulting her?
Hey, leave him alone!
Here is what actually happened. Philly originally faced 10 charges. The jury found him guilty of 2 counts of assault, both connected to him biting the woman. They found him not guilty of 3 counts of sexual penetration without consent, and they also found him not guilty of 1 assault charge and the charge involving restricting her breathing. But then we get to the part that half the headlines are barely mentioning. The jury could not reach a verdict on 3 additional rape charges. That does not mean guilty. It also does not mean not guilty. It means the jury couldn't agree, and prosecutors can now decide whether they want to bring those charges to trial again. So anyone posting, Philly beat every charge, bro, no he didn't, and anyone saying Philly was convicted of rape, that isn't true either. It was a split verdict.
Breaking news from a Perth court today, and a British YouTuber has been acquitted of raping a young Perth fan. Young Philly was found guilty of 2 counts of assaulting her, but not of strangling or raping her. On Friday, Judge Linda Black released to the media some of the exhibits that were used in the trial, including CCTV from the Intercontinental Hotel on Hay Street, where the incident is alleged to have taken place. Young Philly will remain in Australia until his sentencing in 3 weeks.
And the 2 guilty verdicts are especially important because they show exactly which part of Philly's defense the jury rejected. Throughout the trial, Philly admitted biting the woman. He didn't deny that part. His argument was that there were consensual love bites caused during an encounter he believed the woman was enjoying. But the jury clearly didn't accept that explanation for at least 2 of the incidents. They decided those actions crossed the line into criminal assault, and that completely changes how people should talk about this case, because this is no longer just somebody facing accusations. Young Philly has now been convicted of assaulting the woman. You cannot hide behind it was all allegations, not anymore. Some allegations were rejected, some remain unresolved, but 2 were proven beyond reasonable doubt to a jury. At the same time, you cannot just ignore the acquittals because you dislike Philly. The prosecution brought 6 rape charges. On 3 of them, the jury returned a clear not guilty verdict. That means prosecutors did not prove those specific charges beyond reasonable doubt. The defense had spent the trial pointing towards inconsistencies in the woman's account, footage of her behavior before and afterward, limitations in the medical evidence, and testimony supporting Philly's version. Clearly, at least some of those arguments landed with the jury. They did not accept the prosecution's entire version of the night, and that matters. You cannot respect the guilty verdicts while pretending the not guilty verdicts don't count. It goes both ways. But here's where that headline becomes seriously misleading. It says Philly was cleared of raping a young fan, and yes, he was acquitted on 3 counts, but 3 other rape charges did not produce any verdict. The jury was hung. They spent days deliberating and still couldn't agree. That tells you this wasn't some case where 12 jurors immediately looked at the evidence and went, this is obviously complete nonsense. Half of the rape charges remained legally unresolved. The prosecution now has to decide whether pursuing a retrial is worth it. So the story isn't Philly cleared of every rape allegation. The accurate version is Philly acquitted on 3 rape charges while 3 others could still be retried. tried. That is a massive difference. And honestly, the split verdict makes sense when you look back at how divided the evidence was. The jury heard that the woman willingly went back to Philly's hotel, they saw footage of her appearing enthusiastic earlier that night, they heard about her behavior afterward. They heard from Philly's security guard who said she appeared normal when she left, but they were also shown documented injuries. Philly admitted causing some of the marks, her phone had been taken by security, and Philly admitted the two had never discussed boundaries beforehand. So it appears the jury believed there was enough evidence to establish that Philly assaulted her through some of the biting, but not enough for them to unanimously accept every allegation about what else happened inside the room. That's not a contradiction. A jury can believe one part of somebody's account and reject the other part. This wasn't an all or nothing decision. But apparently nobody online is capable of understanding a mixed verdict. Philly supporters are already treating this like he was found innocent of everything. They're posting "Free Philly, he beat the case, everybody owes him an apology."
You see? Please, everyone, you're all disrespecting this man. Come to the front. Make sure your apologies are as loud as your disrespect was, please.
An apology for what? He was literally found guilty of 2 assaults. He might still face another trial on 3 unresolved charges. This isn't some complete victory lap. Yes, being acquitted of serious charges is obviously massive for Philly, but celebrating like he walked away fully innocent while completely ignoring the assault convictions is dishonest. You don't get to use the jury as proof that Philly was right, then suddenly ignore the same exact jury when they convicted him. But the other side is doing the same thing in reverse. Some people are acting like the assault convictions automatically prove every rape allegation must have been true as well. That isn't how a criminal trial works. The jury separated the charges because every charge had to be considered individually. They found some proven, they found some not proven, and on 3 they couldn't agree. You can personally believe that woman's entire account, you can personally believe Philly's entire account, but neither opinion lets you rewrite what the court actually decided. Philly is now a convicted assailant, he is not a convicted rapist, and 3 rape allegations remain unresolved. That is the truth, even if it doesn't fit neatly into someone's TikTok caption. Philly reportedly cried when the verdicts were read, and honestly, he was probably processing about 5 different emotions at once. Relief that he wasn't convicted on the rape and choking charges where verdicts were returned, fear over the charges that could still come back, and the realization that he was now officially convicted of assault, because his life doesn't simply return to normal after this. The assault convictions still need to be dealt with by the court, the unresolved charges still need a prosecution decision, and professionally, every company considering working with Philly now has to look at a conviction involving violence against a fan. He remains on bail, and the case is due back in court on 21st of August to discuss the next steps. And this verdict leaves Philly in one of the strangest positions imaginable. He avoided being convicted of the most serious charges decided by the jury, but he's still been found guilty of violence against a woman who was a fan of his. How exactly do you rebrand after that? Does Beta Squad bring him straight back? Do brands suddenly pretend the last 2 years never happened? Does Philly upload a comeback video celebrating being cleared while barely mentioning the convictions? Because that would be an absolutely horrible idea. His best move would be acknowledging the assault convictions properly and waiting to see whether prosecutors order a retrial. Trying to turn this into some giant "I defeated every allegation" victory tour would be completely dishonest. He didn't defeat everything.